It's 6:30. I call this meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Announcements, awards, special recognition? We have none. Public comment?
Only person signed up to speak is Miss Suzanne Brown.
My name is Suzanne Brown and I live in Crescent Oak. The City Council approved pay raises across the board when the most critical need was for police, fire, and EMS, who were the most underpaid workers. We needed you to pay them more to keep them here and keep us safe. Essentially, you raised property taxes by 17% by virtue of not rolling back the millage rate when property values continued to soar and inflation climbed. And you got to pick and choose what projects went into the SPLOST wish list, which got approved. But now it's, oops, we need more than $10 million in maintenance and repairs that we didn't do in the last several years, and it never got put into SPLOST. But we're going to need part of our $24 million surplus to do the maintenance. We have leaky roofs, mold issues, need an elevator in City Hall, and have countless big-ticket items for major repairs to buildings, vehicles, etc., that should have been on the 5-year maintenance and improvement plan. I know Bob Kernow was not here when those maintenance items were being neglected because he only arrived in January. Looks like you're off the hook, Bob. So you're telling us that our former city manager failed to perform required maintenance and repairs for the last several years of his time here. Is that how we amassed the $24 million surplus? Did we skip doing the required maintenance and repairs so the money could grow into an impressive surplus that made the former city manager look good? During all that time, who was watching the store? A majority of this council prioritized the SPLOST list. Did you have knowledge of the maintenance program or lack thereof when you created that list and left all those items, critical items, that could have been incorporated into SPLOST? I'm trying to figure out exactly who's responsible for this negligence, incompetence, or malfeasance. Are we being set up for an even bigger property tax increase for next year? It seems to me we need a legitimate system to foster line staff whistleblowers to come forward with issues that they had to be aware of while all of this was happening. Thank you.
Agenda changes. Council? No. All right. Minutes. A, June 1, 2023 regular meeting minutes. B, June 1, 2023 executive session minutes.
Mayor, I'd move that we approve the June 1st, 2023 regular meeting minutes and the June 1st, 2023 executive session minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda items A through H, and yes, I have to read them into the record. A, fiscal year 23 budget amendment, engineering professional services. B, fiscal year 23 budget amendment, sponsorship funds for Sunset Sounds events. C, fiscal year 23 budget amendment, insurance reimbursement for police vehicle repair. D, purchase equipment trailer for stormwater department. E, purchase 3 canine kennels. F, purchase new rooftop unit for Kedron Aquatic Center. G, purchase sign cutter for the Public Works Sign Shop. And H, resolution to adopt the 2023 annual CIE update. Can I get a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda items A through H as read into the record.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Old agenda items, we have none. New agenda item A, 62305, American Rescue Plan Funds reallocation. Justin Strickland.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have a presentation for this one because it's I would only have like one slide on there. But the tables are in the packet, so for anybody that has the packet, what we're asking to do is move the funds that were allocated for the West Side Station 86, which is $3,057,362, and then the remaining funds that we have left in the stormwater allocation of $44,470 to a general government allocation, which would bring the total of that up to $6,961,852.96. The reason for this, and this is explained in the memo, which is in the packet, is the cost for Station 86 from the estimated cost from our architect, and then also just information that staff that we've gotten from other sources has really gone through the roof. As discussed, like in the previous budget session, we mentioned how construction costs have just risen and risen. The original budget of this project was $4 million, with $3 million of that coming from ARP. The budget now, or how much it would actually cost to do this project, is well over $6 million because of those rising costs. So at this time, staff and the city manager feel that the best thing is to finish the design of Station 86. Go ahead and finish the design of it, have all the plans ready to go, put it on the shelf, identify a new funding source at a future date, and move this money into this general government pocket so we can actually take care of some of those projects that we discussed, some of the Go Now projects that we discussed in last week's budget workshop, such as a lot of it being facilities type projects. Also in the memo, I noted that most of these projects would exceed the threshold for public bidding requirements, so they would pretty much all go to public bid, and they would all come to council for approval to actually do those projects as we move forward with them. And I'll entertain any questions you have.
Council, any questions?
In order to do the motion, we need to have, I would ask you to let us have the exact amount we need to
Okay.
move.
I can read the motion, and then you can
Okay.
just say as read. Staff is recommending that council approve the reallocation of the remaining unencumbered American Rescue Plan funding in the amount from stormwater of $44,470, in the amount from the project for Fire Station 86 of $3,057,362, and move both of those into allocation for general government projects.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. New agenda item B, 62306, Flat Creek Boardwalk repair and tree removal. Justin Strickland.
I do have a presentation for this one. So, as you may be aware, if you've ridden your golf cart or your bike or walked or jogged by this area of the pass, you've noticed that the Flat Creek Boardwalk has been closed for a little while. I do want to give a little bit of history of the boardwalk. I actually had to called Scott Hicks today, who was our former public works superintendent, because Dave said it's older than him, and then he's been here. So I called Scott Hicks, and he said he remembers it being built in the early 90s. So it was built somewhere in the early 90s from what he recalls. The North Boardwalk, which is this section behind the amphitheater, is 168 feet, 0.03 miles. The South Boardwalk, which is the main section here that goes way back into Flat Creek, is 968 feet, 0.18 miles. And then the South Boardwalk also has two observation decks, one about halfway down and the other all the way down. The city did take back over maintenance responsibility from the Southern Conservation Trust in 2021, late 2021 if I remember correctly there. It's been city-owned the entire time, but Southern Conservation Trust did maintain it for us for decades. We did do projects with them. Talking with Scott today, we did do projects for them in the past that cost more money than they had. But we took over in 2021. We did perform a structural evaluation in March of 22 after we took over. It was evaluated to be in good condition. It did note that we had one tree growing into the boardwalk, which I'll show that a little later. So then fast forwarding to this year, in January, we had a storm come through. The boardwalk was damaged. We had a tree fall through it. We did the repairs to it for about $13,000. So you see here is where it was closed for a while where the tree fell. This is when we repaired it. This is the tree that's growing into the boardwalk, and this is on the north section, the amphitheater section. So we did another evaluation after some storms rolled through and several tree houses were identified. We've had trees uprooted and leaning. We've got tree tops and limbs broken and hanging over the boardwalk. We've got trees growing into the structure like this one. So we did close. We've had a couple of trees actually fall on the boardwalk, but beyond just removing those and fixing, the problem is bigger than just removing those trees and fixing those sections. So we closed to the public because there are trees that are a danger to the public beyond the ones that have just fallen already. So here I'm going to show you some pictures of the current conditions. You see the trees just leaning, ready to go, more trees leaning. Here's one that has kind of partially fallen and hasn't fallen all the way down yet. Here's one that's fallen completely over it and damaged it. Here's another one that's fallen on it. And we have had a lot of storms this year. I mean, you guys know we've had a ton of rain this year, which I think has caused a lot of these to start going. All right, so staff did go back because in our policies, staff is mandated, or the city is mandated to, maintain infrastructure as it exists. So from a staff perspective, we wanted to look at what it's going to cost to actually get this thing to a safe place to where we could reopen it to the public, because it is an amenity we currently have. So we would need to trim approximately 30 trees. We would need to remove approximately 53 dangerous trees, 35 on the main side, 18 on the north side. And these are trees that, if they remain and we know about them, they could potentially fall on the boardwalk in the near future. We need to remove all the accessible existing ground debris 20 feet from the boardwalk. The big tree, that one right there on the left, stand up the large root ball from the maple tree, cut it as low as possible. Portions of the entire length of the boardwalk will need to be removed as they remove these trees to get them out. They're going to have to take some of the sections out, and then we'll have to rebuild them. And then sections of the boardwalk will be cross-braced for stability, safety. They're going to do this. It's going to be a very complicated process. As I think we told you guys in the meetings, you can't just get big trucks back into a swamp. So they're going to have to build pulley systems, all kinds of stuff to kind of pull the trees towards the boardwalk, get them. It'll be a whole process. The boardwalk repairs itself. So for leaving the trees, we did ask about leaving the trees. I heard somebody ask. Leaving the trees would only save us about $15,000. The actual big cost is just getting back there and doing it. So anyway, boardwalk repairs. After they remove all the trees, we would rebuild the sections of the boardwalk that were damaged, and then rebuild any other sections that we deem need to be rebuilt to be safe, or we have to take out during the repairs. So in summary, the tree removal estimate, or the tree removal cost that we have is $135,000. The boardwalk structure repair of what we know needs to be rebuilt is $14,000. And then we did put in a contingency of $51,000, which will be for any of those other areas we think may have to be rebuilt once all this is done. So the actual cost we know we're going to have is $149,000, $51,000 of maybe that we may have to spend to get this back open to the public. And that's my presentation.
Okay.
And I'll leave it to council.
May I start with a question? If we have a city structure that belongs to us and it's damaged in a storm, is there no insurance?
We could put in an insurance claim just for the trees that have fallen, and for the couple of sections like the 14 grand, it would cover that. But the big cost of this, and I confirmed this with Dave and Jonathan today, the big cost of this is the trees that are going to fall. Like our city engineer will not approve to open this back up to the public unless those trees that are gonna fall are gone.
Yeah. So you're saying at least the $14,000 could be covered by
Yeah.
insurance?
Yeah, we can file a claim for that.
Oh, that's,
I don't know what the city's deductible is.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, understood.
It's not much, like from what's damaged right now. The big issue is we will not open up to the public unless what's potentially gonna fall is removed.
Okay. I would say, just to sum it up from where I sit, is that this is a no-brainer, yes, to make the expense, to do what it takes to make it safe and reopen our boardwalk. I've got 3 things in mind as far as why I think that's important to do. The first one is what Justin alluded to already, and that is that as a city, part of our mission statement is to provide consistency in municipal services. And that means we take care of what we already have. That's a priority in our city. Bob alluded to it when we had our first budget workshop last week, and that is the importance of maintaining existing service levels. The second reason I think we need to go ahead and do this is because in the 3 5-year comprehensive plan updates that I can remember, that I've seen more recently in the last 15 years, our citizens consistently let us know what their priorities are. For example, in the 2022 comprehensive plan update last year, our citizens were asked, what do you love most about Peachtree City? Of course, it comes as no surprise. The number 1 answer was our path system. And the number 2 answer, consistently over the many years, is green space. Citizens love, and this is from our comprehensive plan, citizens love the green belt, trees, the nature preserves, the Drakefield lawn, the many neighborhood parks, nature paths, and our ponds and lakes. And then third and finally, we've only received 1 email from citizens on this topic, and that was in favor of spending the money. And the emailer told us as follows: the Flat Creek Boardwalk in the Flat Creek Nature Area is now a signature city landmark and one of the most notable features of our active pedestrian and bicycle recreation facilities. Many residents have commented in social media that they missed the boardwalk and they're looking forward to safe public access being restored. That's really the only comment we received from citizens. So for that reason, it's painful, it's difficult, but I am 100% in favor of going ahead and doing the necessary repairs.
Well, Mayor, I will, I guess I'm gonna look at this as $200,000 money that I think it's not very well spent, for the very simple reason, if you look at the 2 other observatory areas that we have on the very south end of town by Serenby, and the other one right off of Crosstown Road, they are a 20 and perhaps up to 40-foot little pier or boardwalk that goes out to a T intersection where with benches on it, what have you, that people can sit and look at the nature that you're looking at. However, being that's a swamp, we could do that same thing as the other 2 at this particular location, because if you look at a swamp from basically the edge, you're going to see exactly the same thing you're going to see in the middle. I agree with the fact that we need to remove those trees, and not necessarily the trees per se, for natural reasons, because they're going to fall in a swamp anyway. But we need to remove the existing boardwalk structure out of there and replace it with something I don't think that needs to go as far out as this one did. I'm saying maybe perhaps 50 feet, put a couple benches on it, and you have the same thing.
I'll agree with Councilman King. I mean, $200,000 to fix something that's pressure-treated wood that is eventually going to rot, even though it was done in the early 90s. I think I mentioned in our 2x2s to Justin that pressure treating process changed from arsenic to copper in early 2000s, but if this was done before that, it will have a longer life cycle than what we're seeing now, but it is still 30 years old. And that whole thing is gonna have to be rebuilt at some point. So why don't we go ahead and, rather than spend $200,000 to take out trees and repair what's eventually gonna have to be replaced, why don't we look at something that is again, like, kind of like Councilman King said, you walk out, you go out, you can observe on the deck, like we have off of Crosstown Road, and you go out there, you look, and look at turtles, I guess. I've always looked at that and the bridge to nowhere, that the bridge is no longer a bridge to nowhere, as, oh my gosh, they spent a lot of money on something that's gonna need to be maintained. How much did we spend on, I shouldn't call it the bridge to nowhere anymore, because it goes somewhere.
I know what you're talking about.
But how much did we spend on that? I mean, and that is huge. I was
Well, we
kind of
just-
surprised when they were put in, but
On the bridge
anyways.
itself, when it was built, or what we did last year to
Yeah,
maintain it? I don't know what was paid in the past.
Yeah,
when we
for
were
the
here.
repairs.
But last year, we spent like 90 grand
Yeah.
on boards and staining it.
Mm-hmm. And it was really a small portion of what's gonna continue to happen, so, I think we need to look at something,
I think,
long-term.
I think there's more than turtles out there. When I went out there were deer running around.
All right,
But, you know, and I don't know that 50 feet is enough. So I agree that we can shorten it, but I don't think we want to just make it 50 feet. So
What are you looking at that would be different, would be the question I'd ask you.
I think we ought to, I don't know, maybe one of those Zen things that ask citizens how much they'd like to see. Have some citizen
Well,
input.
My
Okay.
point being, you see the exact same thing from the edge of a swamp that you see from the middle of it.
Maybe.
Go
know.
on, Mr. DiStadio, your opinion on this issue?
Well, I don't mind shortening it to save some money. I just want to know how much shorter we're going to make it. What was the total length now?
900 and change.
9,
0.21 miles,
Yeah,
0.21
total.
miles.
968 feet?
There it is,
Yeah.
968.
968 for the south
South.
portion.
968 feet.
Yeah.
And we're going to cut it to 50 feet.
Or something, I mean,
Or some number.
968 feet, I mean, look at it like this, that's 3 football fields.
I did calculate, let me see. I calculated, where's my notes? For the tree cost, 135,000, I did calculate that by the amount of trees, just to average out. So the cost per tree is around $2,800 of how many trees need to go.
Can we determine how many trees would be, you know, if the trees are in the first third, that's one thing. If they're in the last third, can we take out the trees that are the problem ones and maybe get 100 feet or 200 feet? I mean, the trees
It's up
aren't
to council.
falling at the very beginning. They're falling at different lengths. So where can we reasonably cut off the length of the boardwalk and eliminate those trees and not have to spend a lot of money on removal of trees?
I'd have to see. I mean, the two pictures you see of the ones over the boardwalk are right at the beginning of it.
Right
on
in the
each
beginning.
side. Yeah. So
you-
it just, I'd have to go look and say, okay, if council says we want 100 feet, we'd have to go look and see which of the trees we're talking about are within that. I don't have that
I
tonight.
mean, maybe
We'd have to get that.
maybe we ought to task staff with, okay, give us some options on this.
I'd like to hear from Mr. Holland.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of comments to make. I kind of agree with Frank and Phil and Mike, councilmans, and I think it does need to be looked at a little more acutely. I mean, I've got some history with swamps. I grew up on the Great Swamp in Rhode Island, and we as Boy Scouts would go out and do work in the Great Swamp, setting up stations for people to go out and look at the swamps. They didn't go out very far, because we were just Boy Scouts doing this stuff. But I remember sloshing around with galoshes on, walking through the swamps and setting up these things as a Boy Scout. But it is a swamp, and swamps do vary slightly from location to location. But basically, the north side and the south side and the east side and the west side, they're all gonna be roughly the same. They're gonna be a swamp. But I do see on this drawing here that it does go out to a little river that goes through there, a little creek that goes through there. So maybe to compromise on all of these issues, maybe we take the boardwalk out to that area and build a beautiful platform out there where citizens can go out, sit, talk, look at the wildlife there, look at the deers, look at the turtles, look at whatever is the wildlife there, and without trying to put a whole new, what is it, almost 1,100 square feet, 1,100 feet,
Linear feet.
yeah, linear feet of new boardwalk and remove all those trees. It doesn't say it's gonna cut it down to $50,000. It still may be whatever you come up with as staff looks this over of taking trees out. But I do like the idea of having a sitting area out there. I think that was what Councilman King said, put some area, whether it's 50 feet or 150 feet, whatever it is. I think that can be thought about by staff and come up with some ideas, maybe with, as Councilman DiStadio said, with some input from citizens. So that would be my stance on that, Mayor.
Thank you. You do know there is a big sitting area at the terminus, at the end?
Yes,
Yeah.
but I'm saying, now bring it back to where the little creek goes, so you're shortening
Flat
up
Creek.
that amount.
That's exactly where, yeah, I would agree 100%. Take it to Flat Creek, which is, that's what it is.
Okay.
And put your
Sitting area,
city
whatever.
area, whatever you wanna call it.
Yep.
And how many trees would that save you cutting?
I can't tell you
We'd
tonight.
have to go back out. and
Yeah,
look.
but I think if I remember your slide, it said you were gonna cut 53 different trees down?
Yeah.
Because you wanted that 20-foot space or safety reasons?
Buffer, yeah.
Well, just the ones that are gonna potentially fall,
Yeah,
on the current boardwalk. So we would just have to see, of the 53 trees,
yeah.
how many are past the point of
Yeah, well,
Flat
I don't
Creek.
need to know
Right.
the number, but what
Right.
I'm saying is that you're not gonna cut 53 now.
Yeah, it would probably,
You're gonna
yeah,
save them.
it would lessen the amount of trees, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Madam Mayor, can I make a suggestion to the city manager?
Possibly.
To have
Make it to me.
I'm sorry, to you, to have him take another look at this to see if he can come up with some kind of compromise and bring it back to the council?
Yeah, we owe him a little clarity, I think.
Okay,
Well, yeah, that's
Fair
what I
enough.
was gonna say. So if you can give us an idea, because what I don't wanna have happen is we go and we say, this is what 100 feet looks like, and you say, well, we should have made it 150, or we should have made it 125. So if you can give me an idea, or if you can give me a couple of ideas on where you want it to go. If you want it to go to Flat Creek, then we'll use
I
that
I
as
think
the.
that's a
as
good,
that
Oh, I
good
got
first
the-
start.
Jasmine, I got the, can
Try
I
this
borrow
one.
yours?
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think it used to be yours.
Yeah.
That doesn't work either?
And,
right.
Councilman Freeborn, while you're looking for that,
I was just gonna say, the path, there we go, thank you. So,
None of them work.
what if we were to just, instead of having it here, because again, it's 30 years old, maybe we look at bringing it like right there.
You're talking
Again, to
building
Flat
brand new?
Creek.
You're
Yeah.
talking building new?
Consider,
so we can take a look at that, just to understand that the prices that we got right now are for only tree mitigation. It is not including rebuilding an entire new 150 or whatever the distance is on that path. So we'll have to come back if the new path is what's recommended. We'll give you a price on what the new path would be if it's gonna come out of a different location. Right now, we're looking at removing trees with a buffer so they don't fall on people when they're walking on that, and fixing any of the compromised boardwalk that currently exists.
so what we're
So-
saying though is, do it to about here then, that would be the first consideration, okay? Get this safe from here to here, and then,
Remove that.
Remove the physical boardwalk?
Well, I'm just suggesting, can
It
it
would-
be removed?
So we
or
would
is
have to
it-
take a look at that, because it could potentially be an issue with it, hanging out there if it's deteriorating, or, we'd have to look at all of those factors. So, outside of that, from a visual perspective, if you walk out to the end of that and then you look and there's a 20-foot gap, you're gonna see just a failing boardwalk that might not be, within what we're anticipating this to look like when you go out there for some relaxation.
So maybe you go out all the way to the end and start removing the boards on your way back? That would be
We could,
one
well,
way
there's a
to-
way,
one
there's a way to do it.
that.
I think the starting point is just understanding where you want this thing to end, and then we'll figure out how many trees need to be mitigated. Now, if you also want to see another entrance and a new
Oh, I don't know
boardwalk,
if I wanna do that.
we can take a look at that as well. We
I just
would
want
just
the most cost-effective thing.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so I think your most cost-effective solution is going to be to end it at the creek and use the existing boardwalk, and then mitigate any of the trees that are around there, so you're not actually building a brand-new boardwalk.
The whole idea
from a
of this
different
discussion
location.
was to save money, not to
Yeah.
build another boardwalk.
Yeah,
Right.
All right,
I agree.
So we can bring back at another council meeting, mayor and council, if that's what you desire, to see where we can take this out and end it at Flat Creek, and then how many trees that would be And then we're also gonna have to get an estimate on if that's the desire of the council to remove the rest of the boardwalk that, goes further out, obviously into the swamp.
Is that what council wants?
Yes.
That's what I would want.
All right,
I would want that,
clear enough?
that clear.
Well, one more question. What about the north side?
I'd eliminate it.
Because that's 18 trees.
I'd just take, you have
And there's a
one
massive
tree
one
that's
through it.
hanging over that particular boardwalk now.
The biggest tree that has fallen is
Yeah.
the one through that one.
Yep.
I would mitigate that leaning tree. It's gonna fall anyway, sooner or later, and then eliminate the boardwalk under it, and you're done. That side, anyway.
So do you
So
not
the
want
way
that
everyone
side,
else-
or you just wanna mitigate whatever the
It
issue?
serves, all you're doing is walking back, what is it, maybe 40 yards to a hill, and you walk up the hill. It's just a back way to get to the end.
It takes you up to
Fred, yeah.
Shake Rag, yeah.
Right.
So, how does
Yes,
everybody else?
same way, I'm the same thing, I mean,
I have
See,
just
it's
one
fine.
more comment, maybe we could add
Are
to
you
this.
in agreement with Mr. King and Mr. Prebor that,
Generally, but I have one more comment that
Okay.
would be added to that, is if we could get some semblance of input from the citizens of what they would like to see. And I don't know if that's even part of this.
yes, it
Just-
will.
I just think, I know Councilman Descotio brought that up, and I think that's a good thing to hear from our constituents. What do they want? I don't know, does that just a little addition, and we're all agreeing the same way, Mayor?
I fully expect that we will be hearing from our citizens.
Okay.
you know,
good.
what we have to think of though is we don't hear from the people, oh my gosh, I go out there, I live, and we serve 35,000 people, so
I agree.
what percentage of those people trek out there to the end of it?
Well, this will be an opportunity to hear from our citizens. Any other comments? Mr. Curnow, do you have what you need?
So just for clarification, one more time, we're going to bring back a proposal that's going to look to take the boardwalk and at Flat Creek and mitigate any of the trees along that path, removing all of the additional boardwalk that goes out further into the swamp up to that point. On the other side that goes up into the Fred, we're going to do away with that completely. So there's not going to be a path there at all.
Right,
Is that?
correct?
Is that mitigation removing all the embedded poles or
It
just
would
the
be-
decking?
Well, we'd have to take a look at it, because
Okay.
it could be all of the above. I can't comment on that right now as what the mitigation is. If it's as easy as pulling the decking, that's one thing, but if we have to pull all the piles out of the ground, that might be
Or
a
at least
different.
cut them at water level or
Right.
something like that, and let them
Okay.
rot in
Let 'em
there.
rot.
Okay.
So I think, if I'm clear on that, and everybody's shaking their head yes, Mayor, if you want to take just a quick vote for that, then that would be great for us to move forward.
Yeah, Mr. King, you're in support of what he just said.
Yes, I am.
Mr. Prebor,
Yes,
Yes.
Make a motion.
we don't need a
Just-
motion?
I just
We
say to
don't need a
table,
motion.
We can just make a motion to table.
table the item.
To
let's
table.
table it. I
We
make
could
a
have a
motion
motion
that
to
we
table.
table this
Thank you.
agenda item until we get more information.
That's what I was just gonna say.
Been seconded.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. New agenda item 62307, request for cost sharing for shared driveway.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is just a follow-up to the last council meeting on June 1st, where the Shannara Group came forward and made a request to council for a cost sharing for a combined driveway in the amount of $192,000. That would have been a budgetary impact to the city. At this time, we're just asking for the council to make an official decision regarding the request made by the Shannara Group.
Council?
No comments. Let me make a
I mean,
motion.
if we,
Will we make a motion for it?
I mean, I'll make a comment. I'm not really in favor of this because what we do for one, we have to do for everybody. So everybody who comes forward and says, hey, I want to open a business and GDOT's requiring a deceleration lane and yeah, we own, property next to it, but we don't use that property. We don't do anything with it. It sits there.
Yeah, I think that's the bigger issue. I mean, yes, GDOT would like that, but we don't use that property, and we don't need that deceleration lane.
Mr. Holland, comment?
No, I'm ready to make a motion.
You want to comment?
Make the motion.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion on 06, a new agenda item 0623-07, that we decline,
Read the item.
okay, the request for cost sharing of shared driveway, Take 5 oil change I make a motion, we reject that.
To deny?
Deny, that's the right word, deny.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is denied. I mean, the request is denied. Thank you. New agenda item D, 62308, purchase 2 ambulances with SPLOST funds. David Winkles.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a requested purchase. Is it on? Okay. It's a request to purchase 2 new ambulances and a few pieces of equipment that go on them out of the recently voted splosh. This will replace 2 of our oldest ambulances, which is in line with our cycling and replacement schedule. The reason that we're asking for 2 is because the delivery time has greatly extended since COVID. Supply issues have backed up the manufacturer as well as them laying off and having to rehire. So we're asking for 2, and the delivery time would be about 2 years currently. Do you have any questions for me?
Council?
I'd only have one comment. The existing ambulances are adequate to wait for that 2 years, or are they going to require some additional work to stay around for 2 years until you get the new ones?
They're Fords, they'll be fine.
Well, our fleet does have regular maintenance, and they are starting to decline and show signs of decline. So I can't say that they will make it. I can't say that they won't, but they more than likely will make it. But I'm sure some cost will incur.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Can I get a motion?
Can I try it again? Because
Sure.
I'm messing up on the motions, and I gotta get better. I get better at doing this.
Try this. I make a motion to approve.
I make
Good
a
luck.
motion, okay, thank you. I make a motion to approve item 062308, purchase 2 ambulances with the SPLOST funds.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me do that, Mayor. I gotta practice.
And many more. Public hearings. A, 62309, ordinance 1210, zoning text amendments to comply with updated Georgia zoning procedures law. Mr. Meeker.
I will actually read the protocol. When the public hearing is open, members of council will become hearers. No action on their part is in order until the mayor declares the hearing complete. First, city staff will present the request and provide an assessment of compliance with city code. The mayor will then allow up to 10 minutes for the speaker on each side of the issue to present evidence. No individual member of the public will be given more than 5 minutes to speak. Time limits may only be extended by a majority vote of council and will be divided equally between those supporting and those opposing the issue. The mayor will recognize those supporting the issue to present evidence. Remarks will be limited to a total of 10 minutes. The mayor will then recognize those opposing the issue to present evidence for up to 10 minutes. Prior to closing the public hearing, city staff and the public will be given the opportunity to ask questions of either or both sides of the issue. When the mayor and council are assured that the presentation of evidence is complete, the public hearing shall be ended and council may then debate the issue and render a decision. All speakers from the public are asked to follow these rules. 1, please wait to be recognized by the mayor. 2, come to the microphone and state your name and neighborhood prior to making remarks. 3, keep individual remarks under 5 minutes and do not repeat comments. And 4, address all comments to the mayor. Thank you.
Do we have a staff presentation on the issue?
That would be me.
Aha.
This is what I like to refer to as a process ordinance. Council will remember I did a training about 1.5 years ago telling council that there was some confusion based on a Supreme Court decision about what was a legislative decision and what was a quasi-judicial decision. The General Assembly resolved some of those conflicts with House Bill 1405 that was approved last year. They put in definitions under state law for quasi-judicial decisions. They also put forth some other procedures and processes, and then they mandated that all local governments amend their zoning ordinance to reflect those changes by July 1st of this year. That is the ordinance that's in front of you. It now includes language about what is a quasi-judicial decision, what is a zoning decision. There's one special provision that we've added that's required by state law when property is being rezoned from a single-family use to allow a multifamily use. The other thing we did, and I will tell you that we did this out of an abundance of caution, the variance language in the statute says that if council created a separate entity, such as a board of zoning appeals, or if council deferred or delegated the duties to decide variances to the planning commission, then we would have to increase the advertising period from 15 to 30 days. Even though council does not delegate that authority, I still think it was good policy to provide more notice rather than less notice. To that end, I went ahead and included the language with staff's concurrence from 15-day advertising for variances to the 30-day time period. You'll never get in trouble for giving more notice than the law requires.
Agreed.
In essence, that is what is before you tonight. We are under a deadline. I will tell you that I was telling the city manager before the meeting, this whole ordinance changes House Bill 1405. There's been a flurry of activity on the city attorney's listserv. It seems that everybody has waited to the last minute. That seems to be what lawyers do best. I am here for any questions that you may have about it. I will say, of course, this is a public hearing because this is a text amendment to your zoning ordinance. As you will see, any changes are redlined. We've not snuck in any crazy provisions.
All right. With that, I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor? Seeing none, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I hereby close the public comment. I hereby close the public hearing. Council?
I think going from 15 to 30 days is a good thing. Sure. I think that going from 15 to 30 days is a good thing. I have no problem with that.
What'd you say about the single family, the multifamily, Ted?
There is a very long and convoluted process that is now set forth in state law if and when a property is being rezoned from a single-family classification to a multifamily classification. We have simply said that in the event that happens, that process has to be followed. I did not set forth that entire process. I just incorporated the statute by reference and added the language as that statute might be amended. Therefore, if they change it in 2 years, we don't have to come back and redo this entire process. But bottom line is we're going to follow whatever that process is as set forth under state law. It requires a multitude of hearings over the course of 6 months.
And that's, for clarification, that's for when the city does a
I
text.
believe, I saw that in the council, in the staff memo. I went, double-checked the statute. It didn't seem to limit it, but you may be right. I'll be honest with you, I glanced through it quickly. In any event, that's the process. Whatever the process says under state law, that's what the city is going to do.
Can it be summarized in less than 150 words?
If you'll give me a minute, I'll pull it up and tell you. Zoning decisions shall be adopted at 2 regular meetings during a period of not less than 21 days apart. Prior to the first meeting, at least 2 public hearings shall be held on the proposed action. They're supposed to be held at least 3 months and not more than 9 months prior to the date of the final action. Furthermore, at least one of the public hearings must be held between the hours of 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. Posting on the affected premises, which is typical, provided, however, that when there's more than 500 parcels which are affected, the notice is required every 500 feet in the affected area. Publishing in the local paper, which we already do, at least 15, not more than 45 days.
Thank you.
And how does that compare to what we do now?
We follow the state law for all rezonings, which is posting the property and running the ad not more than 45 nor less than 15 days prior to the public hearing. And of course, that any zoning can occur within that time period. In other words, you hold a public hearing, and at that point, that's all you have to do, one public hearing.
All right.
Anything else? Any other questions?
I just have one comment to make. When I first read this, I thought that the zoning variance was going to be not a final decision by our council, that they had some way, because it's quasi-judicial, to be able to appeal that up to the, let me get it right, the Superior Court in Fayette County. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, does that mean that the court of the county is going to decide our zoning variances? But I guess that after talking with Ted, our counsel here, he assured me that we've always had that as part of our law, and that solved the problem of, is this something new, or is this something that we're just updating? And it turns out we're just updating with language that they sent us from the state. So I'm happy with what I see.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else? Can I get a motion?
Mayor, I'd move that we approve the public hearing 62309, the ordinance 1210 zoning text amendments to comply with updated Georgia zoning procedures law.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 11, council staff topics. It is a
None?
quiet night.
None?
Executive session?
No.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Madam Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We stand adjourned.